Hello and welcome back to Olympics Daily, where you join us at base camp for the FT journalists who are covering the Games. This is the central London hotel from which they commute each morning to one of the 38 venues of the Games in and beyond London. And from that team, I'm joined this morning by Matthew Engel, one of the paper's columnists. Matthew, the story that's emblazoned across the British press today is what some of the more exuberant corners of the media are calling Team GB's gold rush. But it was about time, wasn't it?
Well, it's more like a gold crawl, really. There was a slight undercurrent of concern in that we got to day 4 and the home country wasn't getting any gold medals. Now, this is a peculiar feature of every Olympic Games, of this home country actually welcomes the world, welcomes 204 countries into its city, and then ignores 203 of them. The media just reports its own athletes' performances, and the papers this morning are a pretty extreme example of that. The only remaining national broadsheet paper, apart from ours, has devoted its first 8 pages to the Olympics, plus its 40-page tabloid Olympic supplement, and I haven't yet found a mention of any non-British athlete on those first 8 pages. The peculiar British problem is that Britain did exceptionally well in 2008 in Beijing, got 19 gold medals, and that's created expectations that may well prove rather unrealistic. 1996, Britain only won 1 gold medal. They got to 19 within 12 years, but it's going to be very, very hard to match that.
Now, of course, there are dark clouds over one of the sports at the moment. The chief executive of the Badminton World Federation apologised for the behaviour of the 8 players who've been disqualified for their underperformance at their game earlier in this week. What does a story like this do to a sport?
Well, this is both bizarre and yet, I think, very interesting about the whole nature of the Olympics. I think what happened is that the teams involved seemed to lose their sense of perspective entirely of what you can do at the Olympics, what you can get away with, and what's right at the Olympics. And I think this really does come down to an obsession with winning at all costs. I'm absolutely delighted that both badminton, one suspects under pressure from above, has reacted strongly, disqualified, and we're now talking of world champions going out of the sport. And I think that's the only way to respond. Sport really shouldn't matter this much, and I worry about the amount of national resources that are going into producing Olympian champions for its own sake. This is not new. It is the history of the East Bloc before the fall of the Soviet Union. We know the horrors that went on in East Germany, and in particular, and elsewhere. Okay, now moving on to your tip of the day for today, Matthew. The all-around final of the women's gymnastics, and this is a sport that sort of came to huge prominence as a TV phenomenon right back in 1972 when Olga Korbut captivated the world. It was one of the great television events of that era, of the early global village era. It was a bit like the moon landing. Everybody saw that, and everybody was captivated. And it remains, I think, a part of the Olympics that people will watch, where it's not just about whether we won. And for that reason, you have to love it and relish it and enjoy it. And it starts at 4:30 London time today.
Excellent. We look forward to that. Photo finish very quickly today is this photograph taken by the FT's photographer Charlie Bibby at the men's time trials yesterday, where of course Bradley Wiggins won his gold. A spectator desperate to see the action has torn a hole in the fence. Wonderful illustration, isn't it, of the sort of desperation and resourcefulness of those who maybe don't have tickets for the Games.
It's beautiful, and and it does sum it up. What's happening here is that people in London don't want to have to say, when their grandchildren ask you, did you see the Olympics when they came to London? Say, well, no, actually I only watched it on television. However, tiny the glimpse, however difficult it is to get, however fleeting, people really do want to see it.
And they can say, I did catch Bradley Wiggins. Matthew, thank you very much. Plenty more on ft.com today, Olympics related. You can find news and analysis at ft.com/2012. We'll be in particular following today Vladimir Putin, the Russian president's visit to the city. He'll be here watching the judo. We'll see how that unfolds.